Landscape photographers, it is with great sadness that today I must announce that me and Zeiss Distagon 21 are parting ways. You see, for the past few months, I would say possibly the past 6 months, I just have not been using this lens. And this was once my most treasured possession, the favourite lens in my repertoire, but since upgrading to the Mark II 24-70, I've just never needed this lens. I've never been able to justify the additional 3mm of focal length which this offers. So what I've found is it's just been sat on my shelf for 6 months gathering dust, and that should never be the case because this is a beautiful, beautiful piece of glass. So you may be asking yourselves, are you replacing it? And I am happy to say that yes, I am replacing this. So the extra 3mm of focal length with this lens wasn't enough for me to justify taking this around the world and everywhere with me. So I'm selling this and replacing it with this. This is a Canon 16-35mm f4 lens. Oh, by the way, this video is not sponsored by Canon. This was totally bought out of my own money, and I will hopefully be replacing the cost of this with it. So I've got this lens today, and I'm very, very excited to hopefully go and shoot with it in this video. And there are several reasons why I bought this lens, and some of you may be asking yourselves, Tom, why did you get the f4 and not the f2.8 Mark III? And there are a couple of reasons. The f16-35 f2.8 Mark III is a superb lens, but it also comes with a superb price tag of about £1,600 or £1,700. It's also a lot heavier than this. Now, the quality of this lens, which is the f4, is phenomenal. The truth is, I don't know if the Mark III 2.8 is better than this lens. I'm sure I could find a graph somewhere that tells me. But I honestly believe that side by side you won't be able to notice a difference. F11 or whatever. So it came down to two things, cost and weight. Now, I don't really do astrophotography, so therefore I do not believe that I need the f2.8. So for me, it's all about landscapes, sunrise, sunsets, stormy skies, etc. So f4 is fine. I'm probably never going to shoot at less than f5.6 if I'm honest. And it's a little bit lighter than the 2.8. So that's it, that's why I bought it. And I have said on several occasions that 24mm is wide enough. And in most cases, 24mm is wide enough. But I have found myself in situations recently where I wished I had a wider focal length than 24mm. And this has happened to me like 3 or 4 times recently, and I finally bit the bullet and made the decision to buy a wide lens. I'm going to become a wide boy. Now, this isn't so I can get everything in, these grand vistas, but actually what I really like the idea of is getting really low to the ground with a wide lens and emphasizing that foreground and really making the foreground the main subject and stretching it off into the distance up to some cool subject, whether that's a sky, a building, a cliff, some waves, I really don't know. So after being in several situations where I'm like, damn, I wish I had the 16-35, there comes a point when you have to say, okay, I'm going to buy a 16-35. So that's what I've done. So without further ado, I would like to introduce you to the latest member of my lens family, old 16-35 f4, and I haven't got a watch on. And it's now cracking on towards late afternoon, so I think I'm going to go and test it. I can confirm the weather outside is terrible, but I still want to go and see if I can find something to shoot. So I'm going to head to the beach, have a bit of a wander, see if I can find some awesome foreground to emphasize, accentuate, whatever, stretch off. Stretch off, what? Right, so, let's go shoot. And if tonight's rubbish, which, yeah, it probably is going to be, I'm also going to go out tomorrow morning. And I really want to show you guys the best way to use a wide angle lens. Right, let's go. You see, the thing with landscape photography is you really need to shoot to the conditions. So when life gives you lemons, you gotta make lemon pie. And when life gives you grey, miserable conditions, you've gotta pretty much shoot grey, miserable images. But trust me, that is not necessarily a bad thing. So the trick is to come to a location that you know will work well with the conditions you have. And I am so lucky to live on the gorgeous, so lucky to live on the gorgeous northeast coast of England. We both look for a sign and you say these. Uh-oh, there's another photographer. Don't you just hate it when other photographers turn up when you're at a location and you think you have it all to yourself? Damn those pesky photographers, damn them all! No, I'm joking. All photographers welcome, always. If you ever see me out and about with a camera, please do come and say hello. Always happy to talk. So what did I say before in the office? So it was all that emphasising the foreground, and that is exactly what I'm doing here. I've picked this spot in particular. So the reason I've chosen this spot is just to emphasise these wonderful round stones with the gorgeous detail on them. So the first thing I'm going to do is just tweak my composition, shift a bit left, shift a bit right, make sure I get everything arranged as I want it. I've probably got about 15 minutes of workable light, but it's not too bad. I'm only here for one image, so really no stress. So I'm going to take my time, see if I can arrange these boulders just how I want, and then we'll discuss a few technical things and filters and other stuff as well. Right, excuse me while I perfect my composition. Okay, so basically all I did was just walk around this very small area, handheld, and just look at different compositions. What I wanted to do was I really wanted to emphasize the boulders in the foreground, or in particular one boulder which is right in front of my lens. Now, because of physics, it's going to be impossible for me to get this image sharp from front to back. So I'm just putting on a filter ring here. Another tip with wide angle lenses, it will pay dividends for you to get a wide angle filter ring. I could have got, this is 77mm, I could have got a 77mm standard filter ring, or for like an extra 10 quid, get the wide angle version. And all that does, it means that your filters sit closer to your lens, so you get less vignetting. It's worth the extra bit of money. So, little tip. Right, now this is the Lee polarizer. Apparently, no vignetting up to 16mm. I've shot it at 18mm and there was no vignetting, so curious to see what happens here. I'm sure it'll be fine. So this is more or less what the image looks like with no polarizer, but by adding the polarization or introducing it, so you take all the glare off the water there, and you actually reveal a lot more detail on that rock that you can see there. See the prominent rock? That's what I'm after. So yeah, polarizer, awesome on wet rocks. So another filter that I'm dropping in is a 2-stop hard edge. 2 stops fine. The sun is way over to the west. I'm shooting in a southerly direction. There's no sun anyway because of all the cloud in the sky. So all this is going to do is just hold back the detail in the lovely moody sky. And that's what I'm after. Now, I mentioned before I was talking about physics. So it's impossible to get sharpness from front to back. And when I say front to back, I mean 16 inches to, you know, a mile or something like that. Impossible. So try not to worry about it. So what I'm doing with this image is once I've set up my composition and I'm happy, I'm going to take this image 3 times And each time I'm going to focus at a different point in the photograph. Excuse me, I'm just putting in my trigger. So the first time I'm going to focus this to infinity, which basically means I'm focusing the furthest point away from the lens, which is the castle in the background. So we're looking at a 4-second exposure, f9, ISO 100, first image, focus on the castle in the background. Now that's going to give me sharpness for most of the image. So the next focal point, or the next point in the image that I'm focusing, is approximately 1/3 into the image. The last place I'm going to focus, and this is probably the most important place, is this boulder, which is immediately in front of me here. Everything's fully manual, so the exposure doesn't change, the camera composition doesn't change, everything's locked off. It's just a case of shifting the focus. And that's it. That's pretty much it. So when I blend the images in Photoshop, it's you get a lovely sharp image from front to back, as you can see now. So that's it. I hope you've taken something away from this video, with the wide lens not necessarily being there to get everything in, but rather, you know, emphasize the foreground. And in my case, it was these wonderful boulders. Yeah, I hope you've enjoyed the video. So thank you so much for watching. The tide is coming in, the light is fading, and it's definitely time for me to go. So until next time, thanks so much for watching. Bye for now.